I'm Troy. Welcome to IGC's training. I know we didn't do one last month, so I really want to thank you for taking time to join us today. Today, I'm going to dive into something that I know it's on the top of everybody's mind. Our market is changing. If you watch the national news, they're starting to talk about real estate marketing softening. If you listen to some of the financial and the real estate gurus out there, you'll hear words like crash and all kinds of gloom and doom stuff. And yeah, we're going to have some problems in our real estate market. Some markets are going to do worse than others. I don't expect ours to do that bad, and that's because most of our market economy here on the Space Coast is tied to the space race. We've got contracts where it takes anywhere from 5 to 10 years to put a satellite in the air. And there are so many high-paying jobs that are tied to some big dollar contracts putting multiple satellites in the air. We've got the Artemis manned moon launch project that's going on right now. We've got Amazon's Blue Horizons bringing in new offices into our area. We've got SpaceX. We've got NASA. We've got Northrop Grumman, Boeing. We've got so many big forces. Plus, we've even had TUI Airlines, which is a British airline that's just made Melbourne International Airport its exclusive port of entry from the UK. And those planes are coming in and out all the time. Now, that doesn't even get into what Embry Air is doing or a plethora of other aeronautical type companies that are driving our market. What that means is we could have real estate markets crashing in other parts of the country, but for some reason, people want to come here to Florida. It probably has a little something to do with our wonderful governor. Shout out to Governor DeSantis for doing such a great job in keeping Florida free and keeping our economy rolling. This makes it a great place to be an investor. But even with all the positive news, our market is still going to take a hit. It's just not looking at a crash. Today, I'm going to talk about what we're looking at. I'm going to share with you some statistics. You start to see some of them up here on the screen. I'm going to dive into this. If you've got questions, I want you to put them into the chat box. I've got Johnny back here who's going to be shouting out some questions for me periodically. And so we will be able to address those. If it takes me a few minutes to get to the question, no problem. I'll make sure we wrap up some questions toward the end of this. I'm going to try to get through this in less than an hour because I want to be respectful of your time, but I also want to give you some of this information so that you know what's going on and, more importantly, what you're looking at if you're still working to grow your rental portfolio in this circumstance. Now, one of the first things I want to start off with here is I'm going to grab my little laser pointer. This gives me something where I can kind of point out without standing in front of the statistics. So it'd be nothing worse than me doing this and trying to talk about it. And you don't even know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to use a little laser pointer here to keep that separate. Now, our market is going to take a hit. I said that. So let me get back on track here with that. We've seen interest rates rise. Low mortgage rates, when they were down around the 2-3% range, that's what was really driving our housing prices up. Now that our average mortgage rates are sitting in the 6s, and I'm expecting them to probably get to about 8 for a normal rate, that means for an investor, you might pay 1 or 2% higher. Don't let that scare you. In fact, use it to your advantage because what's going to happen is those higher rates are going to pull prices down. Now, I want to start with this statistic right here. This is showing how many residential listings we have in our Space Coast market as of today, October 25th, 2022. 2,658 active residential listings. Now, this isn't counting commercial listings. This isn't counting rentals. This isn't counting income property. This is just strictly our housing market. 2,600 houses. Now, depending on your market, that might not be a lot. We don't have a really big county that our MLS service here. In fact, we've got less than 1 million people that live in our entire county. So a relatively small area. Now, you can see where that drives demand. If we look at the job numbers coming into the area because of the high-paying jobs, the space race, the engineering firms, the airlines, like I opened up with, and you can see the number of housing, well, you understand we've got a need. But here's where the psychology of things start to change. You see, with the rising interest rate, our inventory, sitting just below 2,700 available units, has more than tripled in the last 3 to 4 months. It wasn't that long ago that we had only 700 units. Now we've got almost 2,000 more units available than we had just a few short months ago. That is a dramatic increase. In fact, we've gone almost 4 times inventory in as many months. So that's a dramatic increase. Now, here's what's interesting. The demand on housing hasn't changed, but the sales price has changed. Fewer people are writing contracts to buy, but we still have people looking to live here. What that means is rental properties are in demand. And here's what I've seen in my 30-year career. Whenever a housing market takes a dive, housing prices fall, rental rates increase. There's a weird thing for that that's embedded in the American psyche. And I want you to grab this because I'm sure you've heard that the biggest investment you can make is buying a home. If you've heard that, then you are an American because that is the American mindset. But let me tell you, I don't think that your home is an actual investment. It's really a liability. It is not something that generates income. An investment generates income. A home generates a financial liability. You have to pay a mortgage. You have to pay the taxes. You have to pay the insurance. You have to pay the upkeep. Now, there's tax benefits to all that. And there's a lot of benefits to own a home. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against home ownership. I'm completely for it. But a home is not an investment. However, since most people think it's an investment, they won't buy when these numbers start going up because they're afraid it's going to lose value. It wants to buy an asset that loses value. Let me dispel that myth right now. A home is not an investment. It is a peace of mind. A home that you live in is an emotional decision. An investment is a financial decision. You can be emotional about the house that you buy to live in because that's the place where you can run around in your underwear and hopefully nobody laughs at you. And if they do, they probably shouldn't be living with you. So that's your sanctuary. That's the place where you go to get away from it all, to shake off the cares of the world, put your feet up, grab your remote control, have a cool drink, and relax and blow off the cares of the day. An investment, however, is something that you make income from. So your home is not an investment. It is your sanctuary. I'm all about home ownership, but because most Americans think it's an investment, when these numbers start going up, they tend to walk away. Now, that's why rents go up, because these people aren't leaving the area. They're just choosing not to buy a house that they think is an investment. So instead, they're going to throw their money away on rents. What does that mean to you if you own rental property? That you're now providing a vital need to your people. So you want to be able to do rental property. Now, what this means is if we still want to present rental property, but our inventory is going up, our interest rate is going up, our cost to hold it is going up, that means we've got to get a little more clever and we've got to pull our purchase prices down to where they make sense. Because you never want to buy a piece of rental property for negative income unless you've got a lot of assets generating a lot of income and you need a tax write-off. That's the only reason you should ever have negative income on a rental property. So assuming that you want positive income in your rental property, you've got to be able to buy it right. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, today, like I said, I'm going to share with you some maps. I'm going to share with you some graphs. I'm going to share with you some stuff that I subscribe to because I just don't have time to pull down all this geeky stuff, but I love to look at it. And I know you're going to enjoy it too. So keep in mind, as our inventory goes up, that means our housing prices are going to come down. And let me take a look at some of this. So I'm going to look, first of all, at this graph that talks about what's happening with inventory. And I've already showed you what the inventory is on the market. Look here how it has come up. Now, we've tracked inventory over time. Notice we're tracking here in July. This is our monthly listings. July tends to be a peak in listings, so we track listings from July to July. So 2016, we had about 2,700, almost 2,800 units available on the market. 2018, about 3,900. 2020, about 3,000. And now, look where we're at. We're down here still below the normal. We need to be up between 3,000 and 4,000 to have a normal market. We're still far below a normal market. We're still very much in seller's market territory, but it's changing quickly. We need to have about 4 to 6 months supply on the market. We're almost to 3 months. When we hit 3 months, prices are going to start coming down. We're getting there quickly, though, because look at this hockey stick that's happened right here. Look how quickly it started to rebound just before July when the interest rate started to change. And as soon as the interest rate started to change, fewer and fewer people were making the sacrificial investment to buy a home, and they were opting not to buy, and that's putting pressure on the rental market. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a season here. I want you to understand this. There is going to be a little bit of a season where rents start to take a slight correction, and you want to be aware of this as you're looking to buy rental property today. Rents will take a slight correction, maybe a 5, maybe as much as an 8% dip. The reason for that is there's going to be a lot of people who want to sell, and they're over here in this number. When they put it on the market, there was 1,000 units. 30 days later, there's 1,500 units. 30 days later, there's 2,000 units. And if they're sitting here at 90 days and the inventory's done nothing but increase, these people have 2 choices. Well, 3 choices. 1, take it off the market and stay put. Most of them have already committed to sell, so they're not going to stay there because they're planning to move, relocate, get a bigger house, whatever. The other 2 options are lower my price and take less. I find a lot of sellers in this particular stage in the market don't want to lower their price and give it away. They're still holding out. Even though buyers are saying, nope, I won't pay more than this, sellers are going, I won't take less than this, and that's causing this stalemate that's causing the inventory to increase. So if the seller doesn't want to lower their price, they're going to be becoming one of these increasing numbers. So their next option would be to rent it. See, if they've had that property a few years and they bought it with a low rate mortgage, there's a good chance they can cash flow that as a rental. That means more rentals suddenly flood onto the market. And that's why I'm saying we're going to see a real quick blip in our rental market where it's going to drop about 5, maybe 8%. And then once that little blip happens and settles out, then the people who can't sell, won't buy. They're going to start to relocate and rent. And that's going to cause the rents to start coming up and the housing prices to start going down. So we've got to get across that first little blip in the adjustment of the rents. Knowing we're going to have a little bit of an adjustments in the rent, let's just take a quick look. I'm going to switch my search template here, and I'm going to look at rentals here and see where that brings us. Now I've got, you probably can't see this little number right here. It's 739 available rentals throughout our Space Coast MLS region. So 739, and we rent about 350 units a month. So we've got more than 2 months supply of rentals. We've already begun that correction in our rental market where rents are starting to dip. Let's take a quick look here at Zillow. We've got a house like this here that I could rent for $3,000 a month that now, well, I'd say maybe $2,800 a month pretty solidly. In a high demand market, I could have asked $3,000 and gotten it, but 28 is about going rate. Now it's about a $2,600, $2,700 unit. So we're already starting to see some of that correction in our rents. The value on this house has not come down yet, but it will. Also notice all of the dots here on Zillow. I've just pulled up a zip code here in West Melbourne area, just a specific popular zip code that people want to live in, good schools, just great access to everything. We used to see 2 or 3 dots on here for rent. Now you can see how many of them are filling the map. What this is showing us is that they're starting to increase the number of rentals on the market. So we will be seeing that correction in rents coming pretty soon. If you're looking to make an offer on rental property today, I would recommend that you be conservative on rents. If you're looking at a house like this and all your rental comps say 28, figure on 26. That's about a 5% adjustment that you're going to come down. Well, that's almost 10%, but that's an adjustment. It's safe. If you get 28, bonus. But if you plan on 26, that's going to give you your value. Now, let's look at a couple of other things, and then I'm going to roll this map up, and we're going to get out the whiteboard, and we're going to play with some numbers, okay? Everybody doing pretty good? Staying with me? Everybody good back there? No thumbs up, no red flags, no hands up?
Yeah, nobody yelling.
Okay, nobody's yelling. That's good. All right, just checking in. All right, so I've already talked about inventory. This map here shows zip code increase and what's happened year over year with our inventory. One particular popular place to buy properties has been in the Palm Bay region. If I look here in this Palm Bay zip code that's been very popular, my inventory has increased by 364% year over year. That's a huge increase. Let's look at a popular Melbourne zip code, 32935. Very popular, but only a 14% increase. What's the difference? This is more of your high C working class type neighborhood. It is not hyperinflated for values. You are seeing an increase come in, but these homes, these solid block homes, some of them older, built 60s and 70s, but they're still solid block homes. They make phenomenal rentals. They make rentals for a few good reasons. One, they are a block, so it's really hard to tear them up. 2, they're established neighborhoods centrally located with easy access to all kinds of great stuff that Melbourne has to offer. And 3, their price to rent ratio is more in line with something that looks for good cash flow, so you don't have to get a $100,000 discount off the price like you might in some other zip code in order to make the rents work. It's a great place to look for rental property. How about if I look at something else, like another one of my favorite areas up here, Port St. John, 108% increase in inventory. And I can tell you this number is probably increased a little bit more since these numbers came out. So we have had a good amount of increase. Now, rents in the Port St. John area, my median home price is in the upper 2s, like say between 260 and 280. It could go as high as 3. But I'm in the upper 2s for my median price, and my median rents are around 2 to 24. So I'm much closer on my ratios for rents, a great place to look. Now, if you haven't figured it out yet, where I'm going on rents is you really want your rental rate to be about 1% of whatever your purchase price is. So if I'm buying a house for $300,000, I would expect to get $3,000 a month for rent. But if my rental rates in that area only show me I'm going to get $2,500, then I can only pay $250,000 for that house. Now, a year ago, you couldn't use that formula. Today, you have to. You absolutely have to. Because with the increasing inventory, you're going to see a reduction in home values. With reduction coming in home values, you want to make sure you get what you can now so you can cash flow now and you can keep cash flowing through the downturn and you can take advantage of the increase in rents that are coming up. Let me look beyond this and let's check out our housing crash estimator. What this estimates is, there's a whole bunch of calculations that go in behind that. We're looking at median home price to median household income. We're measuring that a home price should really be 2 to 4 times of median income. And what that shows us right now is that we're about 19% overvalued throughout our county. So we are expecting up to a 20% reduction in home prices here on the Space Coast. We're looking at this reduction coming, so your average price of $344 should be down to around $277. Now, the cool thing about this is when you look at this $277, your rents are already $2,500, $2,600, $2,800, and they could start going up. That doesn't make sense if you're buying it at $344, but it makes great sense if you're buying it at $277. So when you're looking today, use your projections to buy a property based on what my rents are. And I'm going to show you how we're going to calculate those math. I see you coming unglued back there. You're getting excited about the price drops, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to be honest, this is something I've been waiting for years. In fact, I've been telling my staff, I've got people on my staff that are renting homes and they want to buy. And I've been telling them, just wait. Because you don't want to buy an overinflated home. You want to buy the right home that you can be in love with, but you want to buy it at the right price. Our market has been overinflated for the last 2 years. Really, 3 years ago, it kind of peaked out. We've been seeing double-digit appreciation the last 2+ years. So we are overinflated now, just like we were in 2007. Not that we're going to crash again like we did in 2008. But this 19% adjustment overall is going to make a difference. Now, in some of those markets, let me come back to my zip code inventory. Look at my Cape Canaveral, very popular area. We're looking at only a 10% increase in inventory year over year. If I want to look at Cocoa Beach, there's a bigger increase, 43%, but I can tell you when I break this down, the homes that are coming on the market are 800,000 and above. So those that make sense down in the lower price range, you can't find them in there. They come and they go that fast. But the ones that are 800,000 and above, they're coming on the market and they're coming down in price to get there. Now, it doesn't make sense to buy in Cocoa Beach if you're looking for a long-term rental. If you're looking for a short-term rental, Cocoa Beach makes sense. I'm not going to be able to tell you much about short-term rentals because I'm not an expert, but I will be inviting in the future a member of our team who manages his own short-term rentals, knows that market very well, and he'll be able to share some information with you that you'll find just completely phenomenal. Great resource of information. So if you're interested in short-term rentals, we will bring Levi in at some point and share that with you.
I have a question on here from Mike.
Okay.
What do the rest of the numbers look like for the United States compared to ours?
Oh,
anything else correcting as well?
Great question, Mike. Mike's asking, and just in case you didn't hear that for everybody online, Johnny's reading his question. Mike is asking what the rest of the U.S. is looking like. I do watch the rest of the U.S. Some of these maps that I'm looking at, they do project the entire nation. There are areas that are crashing where overall inventory is up 50, 60, 70%. There are places that are just flooding. Markets like Phoenix, Arizona, California, there's a lot of vacancies that are happening. It's, of course, we're not going to dive too much into that. But yeah, there are areas that are being very hard hit in this particular downturn, and they're going to hit some crash type crash, like a crash state. So I don't expect our area to do that. There's going to be markets that lose 50, 60% of value, way beyond ours. Might want to watch some of those markets because they could be good buying opportunities for you once they get there. Keep in mind, if you're buying rental property, no matter where you're at, you want to be familiar with the landlord-tenant laws. Some states are very tenant-friendly, which means if they stop paying rent, you might not get rent for 6 months while you're paying legal fees to get them out, in some cases longer. Other states are very landlord-friendly, like Florida. In Florida, you're probably going to miss out on 2 months' rent between the time they stop paying and the time they're on the streets. Usually an eviction process takes 20 to 30 days. but there's a few weeks lead time to get the eviction filed while we're starting the collection process. So you figure if they didn't pay rent in July 1st, they're going to be out by September 1st on a normal process. So in other states, 6 months or more. So make sure if you're buying in other states, even when those markets crash, that you're familiar with the landlord-tenant laws and you get into a state that's landlord friendly so that you're not hung out to dry like that. Took you down a bunny trail on that one, didn't I, Mike? All right. So we've looked at the housing crash. I want to look at this one. This one's interesting because it's projecting the potential foreclosure rate. Let me hover over our county right here. And I just messed it up good. Okay, here we go. This is showing we got about 32.8%, so almost 33% risky mortgages. Now, the way this is calculated, these risky mortgages, we're talking about people who bought with lower credit scores, people who bought with higher debt ratios, meaning they bought the maximum house they could afford, so they're already on the edge there. Or it could be those adjustable rates or ARM type loans that got in there instead of your basic, nice, easy 2 to 3% conventional fixed. Now, this is showing about 32.8%, so almost 33% regular mortgages. What this means is that, yes, we do have some risky mortgages, but if we've got 8,100 of them, maybe 4,000 of them might go into a foreclosure at some point. Again, we're not looking at a big crash here. And I can support that if I look here at the Realty track, which is tracking our foreclosures, pre-foreclosures in the area. Notice we've only got 26% of foreclosures, 23% of homes in the area are in pre-foreclosure. Those are actually very low statistics when you consider the overall population. And majority of pre-foreclosures never go to foreclosure. There's somebody who got behind on payments, and this is still somewhat skewed from the COVID mess. So we're still waiting on the dust to settle from COVID for some of these stats to start to even out. So if you're of a mindset that you're watching for a foreclosure crash in our market, I don't believe it's going to happen. And none of the statistics I'm seeing could point to that. So I wouldn't be looking at that. Instead, what I'd be looking at is, what am I going to have to buy a property to get that? That's the question we're really here to answer today, correct? So I saw you flagging me. Was there another question that came up? No? Okay. So I think I've covered pretty much all the stats I've looked at here. Yeah, I've looked at inventory. I've broken it down by zip code. I've looked at the housing crash. We've looked at Zillow. We've looked at our inventory. So here's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to turn this off for the moment. And we're going to get out the whiteboard here. There we go. Because I just want to do some real quick math with you here and take a look at a couple of things. First thing I want to do, and I can call the screen back up here real quick, but even without the screen, I can tell you that when you're looking in an area, the first thing you want to do is you want to do a rent survey. Now, you can do a rent survey by going to Zillow and putting in the zip code of the property you're looking for, and it will come up and show you all of the properties that are listed for rent in that zip code. And then if you just hover your mouse over it, you can start to see if it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, similar size and age to the subject you're looking at. You can get an idea for rents. So if I find out my rents, my potential income here is $2,400 a month. I'm going to use that as my denominator for my value right there. Now I'm no longer interested in comps. If you've been looking in the real estate market any length of time at all, or even just read a book on real estate, they're going to teach you that there's 3 ways to value property. There is the replacement cost approach, which although it's usually written on an appraisal, it's very, very, very rarely used to value a property in real time. Then there's the market cost approach, where The appraiser will look at what else has sold in the area and pull usually at least 3 comparable sales those are properties that are similar to the subject, and then use those to determine what the value of the property you're buying is. That's the market cost approach. The third approach, and the one we want to look at, is our income approach. Our income only counts on this, income. Now, I could give you the whole long math and tell you income based on an annual basis. That would mean we now got to do 24 times 12 and start looking at the income on, you know what? I'm not even going to try to hurt my brain with that kind of math. It doesn't matter. Because if I did that and I'm looking for a 10% cap rate, now I got still going to do it very simple here. My rents should be 1% of purchase price. So 1% of value. Now, what that means is if my income is $2,400, 1%, that would be 1% of $240,000. Sorry for my chicken scratch there. If I know what my rents are, I'm going to use that as my value. Now, does that mean I can't pay more than $240,000? Absolutely not. You can pay more than that, but you're going to have to figure out what is my cash flow. So I don't have an eraser up here, but if you could grab me real quick a napkin, or perfect, even a Clorox wipe would be great. Just toss me the wipes there. Absolutely perfect. I'll pull one of these off. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Now, this can be where I start to lose a few people, but I'm just going to do some pretty simple math. And I should have my mortgage calculator here. Let me use a simple formula here, okay? If I buy a house for $100,000 at 10% interest, my payment is how much per month? Let's do this simple interest. Johnny, can you grab your calculator really quickly? And right, yeah, you're right. Teacher came to class unprepared. Give me 100,000 divided by 10%. Divided by 12. It'd be, I did it backwards.
83.
Okay. So my payment at 10% is about $830 a month. Now that's P&I, principal and interest. I need my taxes and insurance. Insurance is going to run away with us here in Florida. After the hurricane, we're about to have an insurance crisis. So insurance rates are going to go up. What cost me $1,500 to $1,800 last year is probably going to cost me $2,500 to $3,000 this year. So if I'm at $3,000 a year, I'm at $250 a month plus my taxes. So that could be $350 a month for taxes and insurance, T&I. Now all of a sudden my payment on that $100,000 house is $1,180. If my rent's $1,000 at the 1%, that's not going to work. But what if my cash flow is at $1,200? Will that work? Well, if you're happy with $20, but you probably got to pay a property manager, so I'd say no. In that case, you might need $1,500 a month in order to make it work. Now, I know this is crude math, but here's the point I'm trying to make. You can use the 1% formula that I just put up here as a very basic guide, but then you have to go from there and figure out what your payment is going to be. So get out a mortgage calculator. You can use Mr. Google, Google mortgage calculator. Google's got one. You can find them at bankrate.com, mortgage.com, a plethora of different sites out there. Don't get one of those where you got to register in order to see the results. Use the free calculator. The one that Google has is very adequate. You put in what your loan amount is, you put in your interest rate, you put in your term, which is going to be 30 years. You figure out what your P&I is, and then you add your taxes and insurance to find out what your income is or what your cost is going to be. You need to make sure that your income is going to be good enough for what I recommend. You need a minimum of $200. So I would say 200 to 300 positive income. That is the goal. So if you start with the 1% rule, $2,400 means I'm targeting about $240,000 purchase price. And if you get that offer accepted, the next thing you've got to do is break out what your mortgage interest rate is and your principal and interest and your management fee. So if I've got a rent payment of $2,400, let's take a look at how this would break down. If I've got a rent payment of $2,400 a month, I've got to do management fee. What is 8% of 2,400, Tony? I could sing the Jeopardy song, but
192.
thank you. Okay, minus our maintenance, and I'm going to take another 150 a month average on maintenance. So I got 2,400 minus. So I got to do this old school way. 10, 8 minus 15. So I've got a net of $2,058 after I've covered my management fee and expenses. That means my mortgage payment should be $1,800 a month or less. That's my goal, because that's going to give me my 200 positive income, 200 or more positive income. And that's what you want in your first year. Keep in mind, rents will go up. So if you're starting in the 200 mark, some people might be comfortable with 150. That's going to be their first year. After that, you will have rental increases. I recommend no less than 200. So in this case, I'm saying 1,800 a month of mortgage payment or less makes it work. Now, your credit could change what you're getting for a mortgage rate. There's some pretty cool tools that investors can use out there to buy down the rate. You can get a 5-1 adjustable arm that allow you to start at a lower rate and then start to raise rates. And some of the gurus that I talk to, some of my coaches and mentors, they actually are predicting that rates will have to come back down again. I won't get into the long explanation. It makes perfect sense if you have any kind of financial background. They're going to raise rates to curb inflation. At the point, they're going to hit a point where rates are harmful to the economy. So to respark the economy, they're going to have to begin to adjust rates back down again. So if you're buying today at 6, 8% or whatever, and you're getting a little bit of positive income, you will be able to refinance that rental property when rates take a dip again and be able to increase your income and take advantage of the changing in the market. So does that make sense? Are we getting any questions on this very crude math that I'm putting up here?
No, I understand. It's actually pretty simple.
Okay, I like to keep it simple, so that's good feedback. Thank you. If you do have questions, put them in the chat box. We're able to do. But here's the thing that I want everybody to focus on. You want positive income, okay? That means your mortgage payment must be smaller than your expenses. So if I know my net is going to be $258 because I've pulled some expenses out, then I need my mortgage payment to allow me positive cash flow. If I don't have that, you don't want to buy that property. Now, if you're working with us, anybody on the team here, we're going to be using these formulas and we're going to be breaking them down. I've got a couple of mortgage brokers that we work pretty tightly with. They'll even break down numbers with you and look at cash flow and tell you if a property cash flows or not. They're not interested in doing a loan just to get the deal done and have you unhappy. My team and the people we work with, they don't want to just sell you one house and wait for you to be ready to sell it again in 5 years like a regular real estate agent. We would like to sell you 3 to 5 houses this year and every year. That means if the deal makes sense, we're going to help you do it. But if the deal does not make sense, we're going to tell you not to do it because we want to have an income with you and a relationship with you for life. That's how we work. Now, honestly, even if you're not buying here in our market and you want to ask me questions, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll be happy to take a look. It might take me a day or so to reply back to that email, but I'd be happy to give you an opinion on it for what it's worth, just to have another sounding board to go off of. Here's something I definitely want you to take away from today. Yes, the market's changing. Yes, it's going to crash in some spots, while other spots are still going to stay relatively strong. I firmly believe we're in one of those spots. I recommend that you approach the real estate market with caution right now, but I don't recommend that you stop looking. You hear some investors and some financial gurus out there saying that now the time to buy gold, now the time to buy silver. I don't disagree. I've considered buying a lot of silver myself while it's still down below 20 because I expect it to go up, but I've been expecting it to go up for 10 years and it hasn't done it yet. Could it go up tomorrow? It absolutely could, but it could stay the same. I don't know. Here's what I do know. If I buy silver or gold, it looks really good. First of all, I buy enough that I have to carry it in a couple of trips and I put it in my safe. And it looks really good sitting in my safe and it gives me a sense of security, but I can't spend it unless I sell it. And it doesn't generate me income. So instead of buying silver or gold, I buy a house. Now I've got income. And that's income that's going to weather whatever happens in the market. I learned in 2008 when the market crashed, I had a personal loss of $3 million. I had a mortgage company and a real estate company. Both had to be closed because I could not sell a house, could not close a transaction. I can remember sitting at the closing table on a $1.3 million sale. Money was there at the title company. All we had to do was sign and leave. But there was one final step. The title agent had to call the mortgage company to get an authorization, what's called a funding number, which was the authorization for them to release funds. They already had the funds in their escrow account and they'd already had the checks written. All they needed was this number. But in the crash of '08, when they called to get this number, instead they got a recording that says this bank has been sold, all funds will be returned, we're not honoring any closings, and the deal was off. Of course, they had to close the mortgage company and the real estate company. Could not function. But in the midst of that kind of chaos and that kind of a free fall of cash, people still paid rent. And my family and I lived off rents for a couple of years during that time. You can't live off your gold and silver unless you sell it, but rents kept coming in. It didn't matter what happened to the value of the property. That's why I think rental property right now is still one of the best investments you can make, as long as you don't pay too much. I could ride that horse for a while, but I think I pretty much made the point. How we doing back there, Johnny?
Good. Henry's in the thing now.
All right. Welcome, Henry. Glad you could join us. It's a great time to chime in with any questions if anybody's got any.
No question.
Okay. So we will be releasing this. We did record this today. Am I correct? So recording did happen. So we will be releasing this. It usually takes Johnny pretty quick. He usually has it edited in a couple hours. It takes me longer to press send the link in the email. So I might get that out by tomorrow or Friday, but the email will be coming out so you can watch a recording. So bottom line is, I would encourage you to stay active, cautious, but active if you're looking to buy and increase your portfolio. And if you're not quite sure, you want to build a plan. I've sat down with a lot of people and helped them work out a plan to build a solid investment portfolio that generates income. And remember, income is the most solid preservation of wealth ever. Your gold, your silver, it could go up in value, but you can't spend it unless you sell it. Most assets like stocks are losing value right now. Even when houses lose value, they still generate income. And the true definition of wealth, this is what I'm going to leave you, because the true definition of wealth is having enough income coming in to sustain your life without you having to get out of bed and go to work every day. And there ain't nothing I know that does that better than rental properties. So look cautiously, use the ratios that I shared with you today, be aware of the statistics I shared with you, and be ready to take advantage of the opportunity, because there's going to be a whole lot of wonderful opportunities for us to get properties at some really good prices in the coming season. It's going to be exciting. Okay? That it? One more chance for questions? Wow, really light question day. So either I did a really good job or everybody's sleeping out there. So
I'm sure you'll get questions.
I'll probably get a few email questions, and that's fine. Feel free to shoot me an email or reach out to us. We're here at IGC Realty. You can Google us if you're not familiar with us and check us out. But if you're already working with us, because this is really something I put out for our owners and our investors, if you're already working with us, you've got our contact information. So feel free to shoot me a call, shoot me an email. I'd love to talk with you. Thanks again for signing on tonight and for listening to me. It's been fun. All right. Good night, everybody. Look for the video.